Okay, maybe if we just want to get started, Mikey, I know you're tight for time and you're not sure how long the internet's going to last. Maybe we just kind of open up the conversation for you if you want to just give us an update as to what's happening and go from there.
Yeah, deadly. So the story is now is we were just sheltered last night. A number of boats needed a little bit of work done, so we sheltered in a kind of cove on some random Greek island. We're just in between Greek and Turkish territorial waters at the moment, and we just left as of about half an hour ago to head back into international waters and on our way down to Gaza and rejoin with the rest of the fleet. So yeah, we had been docked in Marmaris then in Turkey for about 3 days. We had a big congress there to discuss the fate of the mission, to discuss security concerns and different things surrounding the mission. But we decided that we have to press on and we can't bow to the Israeli aggression in Europe off the coast of Greece a few weeks ago that they inflicted on my comrades. And yeah, for the sake of the flotillas, but the Palestinian solidarity work in general, we need to continue, So we're on our way back out now, and we're going to push on to Gaza over the next few days. We should be there in 3 or 4 days, I'd say.
Yeah. And with this attack, so just for people that might not know, so this was an attack from the Israelis in European waters off the coast of Greece, right? And they
Yeah,
kidnapped, what, 15, 20 boats, including many Irish citizens.
yeah, man. Like it was in international waters, but it was off the coast of Greece. But I mean, it's unprecedented that the Israelis would physically come that far into Europe. Now, in saying that, and this is not really known or wasn't widely reported, Israel last year bombed a flotilla boat just outside of Maltese waters and disabled the vessel. So it is unprecedented in the scale, but they have made incursions into Europe. And I mean, over the 60s and 70s, they kidnapped Palestinian rebels from all over Europe and nuclear scientists as well, and kidnapped them back to Israel or to occupy Palestine. So, but yeah, in terms of the scale, a few weeks ago, like they disabled 22 boats, kidnapped a number of Irish citizens, and like what they inflicted on them in 24 hours aboard their prison ship before releasing them with the assistance and the collaboration of the Greeks as well onto Crete. Within 24 hours, like they inflicted a serious amount of violence on them, and obviously kidnapped Saif and Tiago back to occupy Palestine as well.
hmm And with this now, so why do you think? Because as far as I can remember anyway, typically this sort of behavior in terms of kidnapping, abduction, torture has happened later in the mission when the flotilla has gotten closer
Yeah.
to the Palestinian coast. Why do you think they did it when they did?
Pure fear, because the last mission in November, which a number of Irish were on as well, and a few friends of mine, like the boat that got nearest to Gaza was, I think, about 15, 20 kilometers off the shore of Gaza. It took Israel 24 hours to intercept around 40, 45 boats on the last flotilla. And they were pushed, they were drained, and now with the most recent geopolitical situation with the war in Iran, with their invasion, occupation and genocide in Lebanon now as well, their forces are spread. And
hmm
they are afraid of this flotilla because of what it represents. Ordinary people standing up and taking the bull by the horns and going directly to the site of the genocide and the oppression. And they know that if we can be successful in breaking the siege, even if only for 10 minutes, it's still enough of a gap to show that they're not infallible and they're not beyond reproach either. So
Yeah.
they understand the danger of allowing us to succeed here, and that if we were to succeed, it'll only inspire countless more. But even if they detain us again, the fact we've done this and continue to push on will inspire the next flotilla or the next action of the similar sort, whatever people decide to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mikey, like with the interception being unprecedented in terms of the location within Europe, Are there other fears about, you know, actions they might take which haven't happened before? Like I was watching your stories earlier, and I saw that in the Israeli media, they're really kind of drumming up consent, as you put it, for violence. They're preempting that there's going to be a violent altercation. What's your feeling about that?
Yeah, that was the phrase I was looking for, manufacturing consent. But it's like 6 in the morning, so
Yeah.
yeah, no, you're dead right. They're trying to drum up support and consent for an increased level of violence. Obviously, you know, anyone who embarks on something like this, you're up against a genocidal army, like, so nothing is off the table. And even being Western or having a European passport or being, you know, white appearing doesn't protect you, because they have murdered a lot of Western people over the last number of years, journalists and aid workers and doctors, etc. So with impunity as well, from the UK and from America and their allies. So you know what you're signed up for, but definitely I think the inclusion of the Turkish fleet and the history of the Turkish flotilla, for people who don't know, the Mavi Mavrum sailed in 2010 to break the siege of Gaza, and the Israelis boarded their ship and murdered 10 people aboard that ship. And the same organisation, I believe, behind that flotilla is also to do with the Turkish flotilla, the contingents on this mission. So, I mean, Israel is trying to say they have links to so-and-so and this and that and stuff, but sure, they're calling all of us a Hamas flotilla. So, you know, again, it's just propaganda. And trying to designate us as terrorists to enable their crimes against us. But definitely, we have spoken about an increased level of violence was definitely used against my comrades aboard the prison ship. They broke some eight ribs on one fella. They broke noses and eye sockets, shot rubber bullets at people, and also weaponized trigger warning guns, weaponized sexual violence on people. In a way that they have done that, they have inflicted that on people over the last number of flotillas as well. But it appeared, I suppose, the last few times to be certain isolated events, whereas from what I can tell, the way that it was utilised a few weeks ago was in a more systematic fashion, which is definitely an escalation. And then also there was talk of the potential of live ammunition being used and the potential for fatalities. And I mean, I suppose anytime someone does something like this, those are the risks. I'm not sure to what extent they are increased or decreased, but it's certainly, there is a potential for it. Yeah, like, I mean, we're dealing with Israel, you know, so yeah, it goes without saying, like, and they have done this before, so.
Yeah. So I think, along with the size of the fleet being the biggest it has been, there should be, I suppose, the attention as well that on the flotilla. But the propaganda at the moment from the Israeli side is intense. And I guess that is a signal of how effective this flotilla has been versus other ones.
I think so. And just, again, just the scale of it, the planning that went into it, and where they are at the moment, are far more.
You're probably in an area with less internet. Is it the same for you, Tara? Is it freezing a bit?
Yeah.
Oh, he's back.
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 Like, I don't know what you missed. I'll recap quickly. Yeah. The scale of this flotilla, the preparation that went into it, the fact that the last flotilla was almost so close in achieving their objective of breaking the siege, and the political situation within Israel, and also their war on about 20 fronts at this stage, both literally and covertly, I guess, means that they are spread very thin. And people who are far more well informed on the ground than I am have said that they really are crumbling, and the cracks are beginning to show within Israeli society, within their army. Like, so many of their soldiers are coming back with PTSD, and good for them as well. They should be fucking haunted forever for what they've done. But, you know, their own society can't uphold this genocide, and they can't do it without the United States bankrolling them, obviously, as well, and assisting them with the propaganda and with the media. So the cracks are there, and we really do have a chance, I believe, to shoot through them cracks and open up a bit of light for the world to come in. And again, action begets action, which begets change, and that's it. I think this is a really good opportunity to make a tangible difference. This flotilla gets called symbolic. It isn't fully symbolic. It is to an extent, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with a bit of symbolism. The 1916 Rising was symbolic as much as anything else, but it isn't symbolic because we have, a tangible way of achieving the breaking of the siege, which would be historic. And I really do think we have a strong chance of doing it, but that's also why the risk is definitely higher this time around, I suppose. But again, it's not necessarily like there's nothing off the table ever with them, so.
Yeah, they are unpredictable, and it is the only direct action that brings into direct confrontation with one of the most sophisticated militaries in the world. So it's difficult to see how that is symbolic. That's a very material, real risk. It's like the attention should be on the fact that this flotilla is needed at all. The siege on Gaza is it's an engine of genocide. It isn't a legal maritime blockade like we hear Israel trying to speak about, and the media kind of reiterating and parroting that nonsense. And I think for that reason, it lays bare the complicity of our governments, the Irish government for us, and for all the flotilla members in the countries they represent. It lays bare that, partnership even in genocide, more so than complicity.
100%. Like, this is the slippery slope of inaction and support, whether directly or just through sheer cowardice and failure to uphold international law for decades. As you said, like, the siege is 18 years old. So the genocide of the last 2.5 years is the end result of that siege being allowed to happen, of the apartheid allowed to continue in the occupied West Bank, of Israel's ethno-nationalist supremic state to be allowed to do whatever it wants in that region, and also the United States being allowed to trample all over the world for the last 100 years or however long they've done it. And our government, instead of showing moral leadership, align ourselves with them. And I understand the pragmatic would say, economy and, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, how much is your soul worth? And this is the end result. It's been a very horrible chapter in history, that a genocide can occur, and we watch it every day on our phone and then go about our business. It's dystopian, it really is. And I really fear for what's coming next if we don't draw a line somewhere. And our government ain't going to do it. No government really is. Maybe the Spanish are decent, and Colombia and certain governments around the world, but it's going to be up to ordinary people organising and getting together and mobilising and being brave, showing a bit of courage, and not being afraid to lose a small bit of material comfort for the greater good,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you saw today that the Fianna Fáil Ard Feis in Dublin was disrupted by activists in support of the flotilla. And something I think that people really need to realize as well is that a huge part of the success of the flotilla is people on the ground taking advantage of these cracks that you create, of the pressure and of the sort of just blatant failures of our governments to actually uphold their responsibility and their legal obligations under the Geneva Convention. So, even for me, having lived in Barcelona, when the last flotilla was intercepted, the city, all of the complicit businesses were smashed in, graffitied, the port was blocked, streets all over the city blocked, Italian workers on strike, similar things happening in Greece and elsewhere. So a big part of it, and what frustrates me about some of the people who kind of sit back, do nothing and just complain about whatever is happening, is that the success, a huge part of the success of the flotilla is what we do with the pressure that you guys create,
Yeah.
right? It's not just that, and that's how it moves from symbolism to action at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it brings it home to people, you know, because like the likes of myself being out here and doing it, like people who are probably sympathetic to Palestine, but not necessarily engaged or mobilized, are going to see their neighbor or their friend's son or their son's teacher or whoever it is, your man from down the roads, out there, and they'll say what's going on and might get involved a bit more. But 100%, like the flotilla is only as successful as the mobilization around the world in behind that. And again, like there's over 80 different nationalities represented here. In terms of internationalism, it's probably the biggest ticket, the biggest show in town. And it does have the chance to coordinate all of our dissecting struggles into one focal point that can mobilize the entire world. Because again, like the kind of mantra, like the freedom of Palestine is the freedom of all of us, you know. The systems, you guys, and I'm probably speaking to the converted, but the systems of oppression that the Palestinians face are being exported and coming closer to home. And Palantir, an example, I think you have covered on things like that. Like so, more subtly, we also are faced with the same levels of control, restrictions, and oppression in terms of economics and in terms of surveillance as well, and what we are allowed to say and not say, and different things. So it is all of our collective struggle, and Palestine is the most evident and the most obvious of all of the oppressions, where they all converge into one place. So to stand with Palestine, I say this to people at home as well, whether you directly care about Palestine or not, it is all of our struggle. Because if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere, and it will happen everywhere as well, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I've heard said by quite a lot of anti-imperialist scholars is that Zionism is the glue that binds fascists worldwide together. And me and Audrey, we did a three-part series on the Epstein class. And really, one of the main conclusions we came to at the end is Palestine is the front line against
Yeah.
really the parasitic puppet masters behind the scenes. And that without confronting Zionism directly, you're not ever really dealing with root causes. You're putting out fires, you're dealing with symptoms, but at the end of the day, things aren't going to change systematically unless Zionism is confronted head on. And I think there's no other group that has done so in the way that the flotilla has done over the last, whatever, 20 years almost now at this point.
And another thing I think about the flotilla, what it reveals is, like what you said it already, Mikey, that this isn't going to be fixed by politicians. This is a job for the people. And the criticism leveled at the flotilla for, you know, not succeeding or not breaking the siege, in some way, it's coming from people who aren't making the most of the momentum that is supposed to be galvanized by the flotilla. And in a way, it's just kind of shirking that responsibility that we all have to unite behind this. I feel it can be like that. Because like Dara said, it is meant to be a kind of motivation for us here at home, to amplify, to intensify the pressure, to make the most of the energy and, you know, generated by the flotilla. So I think people need to reflect on that as well. There's a lot of reflection that's needed there, I think.
I think definitely, and like, yeah, look, there's nothing like the left to have a bit of infighting, like, you know, and moral posturing and shit, but I think, like, again, you know, the Palestine movement, from what I can see, is fairly fatigued at the moment around the world. And there is a little bit of, not hopelessness, but certainly, I suppose, when you look at the numbers of demonstrations and the mobilization the first year or two of the genocides. Compared to now, it's only natural people are going to get burnt out, and a little bit of apathy will sink in because, you know, one of the demos in Dublin had 100,000 people at it, roughly. And you're kind of looking at that, and there's still no change, and there's still no action. And the dogs on the street around the world are saying this is wrong, and the wheels of politics are moving so slowly in order to be able to prevent this happening, and are designed as such as well to do so. So I do think it's only natural. If we can do anything, it's going to be that this is a chance to relight the spark and be a catalyst again for mobilisation and bring it to another level. And that's what it's going to have to take, is that, again, that's why I say we're going to have to be willing to lose little bit of material comforts, like the way the world is going, you know, this techno-feudalism, dark enlightenment theory stuff as well, like, you know, the Epstein class and Palantir and all this, which again are hand in hand with Zionism. At the end of the day, like, there's a fight coming sooner or later, so it's either now with Palestine and fix it, or else wait 20 years time and you'll be fighting against some type of fucking Terminator robot or something, like, you know. So
it's dystopian, and it's true.
No, genuinely, like, I'm not being facetious. So that's the thing. Like, if we can do anything, it's just to revive the movement a little bit. And I've seen there was a huge demonstration in London today, and I did see the videos from the demo in Dublin, and those activists who confronted the Fianna Fáil Ardèche. And again, there's so many people around Ireland who are on the ground every single Friday night and every single week, and who are doing Trojan work, and, like, would probably love to be on the flotilla as well, and they're not going to be on the flotilla or on the podcast, but they're holding it down and doing more than most of us as well. And I just want to highlight that, like, for me being here, I'm immensely privileged to have this opportunity to take part in an action of this scale, and to be at the front of it, you know. But there's the backbone of the struggle are people who we're never going to hear about or hear from, but, you know, they really are doing amazing work, you know.
Yeah. And with this next few days now, so obviously we know that at any point the Zionists could come in and who knows what. So at the same time, there's more than 50 boats, more than ever, have tried to break the siege on Gaza, and potentially enough to overwhelm the Zionist boats and to be able to actually break the siege and to hopefully open up this humanitarian corridor. But I'm just wondering, maybe when you kind of think of, like, the success of this mission, not only in terms of breaking the siege, which would be, of course, the ideal scenario, but also in terms of, like, what you want, say, from the people on the ground, what the demands really are of the Irish government at the same time, just to make it clear to everybody that wants to support the mission but maybe doesn't know how.
We need to really explicitly hammer home to the government what the will is of the Irish people. You know, like, I haven't really met any Zionists in Ireland. Everyone in the country can see that what's happening in Palestine is wrong. But as I said, I think on a story earlier, it's not enough to just put at the television and then go about your day. Like, we can do something. Over the last number of decades, they've deliberately disengaged people from taking participation in public affairs and politics, and made it seem like some abstract kind of academic niche exercise rather than our literal reality of the day-to-day life. So people need to get engaged. Firstly, become politically aware and conscious if they aren't. And in terms of, like, literally what we can do now, harass the shit out of the Department of Foreign Affairs in particular. Find their number, find their email online. You'll find templates online as well from probably you guys can assist in that, and different Palestinian solidarity groups have template emails that you can send to the government, and just flood their email boxes, flood their telephone lines with emails saying, we demand the flotilla has safe passage all the way to Gaza. Again, Audrey, as you said, Israel has no jurisdiction in blockading Gaza. Like, we legally are entitled to sail all the way into Gaza. We're not going through Israeli jurisdiction. So demand our safe passage to Gaza. Demand that if we are intercepted, that our human rights are upheld, I should say. And following on from that,
it seems we lost him for a second there. Let's see if he comes back.
He'll probably come back.
I was saying, following on from demanding our safe passage to Gaza and upholding our human rights if we are kidnapped, that they hold Israel to account for enacting the Occupied Territories Bill in its entirety, by removing the American army from Shannon Airport as well. As I've said before, that besmirches everything that was fought and died for in the name of Irish freedom, and also our neutrality as well. Also, the government must protect and enshrine our neutrality into the Constitution. There's obviously huge pressure on the government from NATO, from America, and from Europe to join NATO. And the Irish media are falling in behind that with these columns the Irish Times are doing, and they're kind of the Russian bogeyman. You know, it makes me laugh. Like, Britain still occupy our country, and we're worried about Russia. You know, but demand that neutrality is enshrined in the Constitution, and that the government uses every mechanism and leverage of influence at its disposal to isolate Israel and to bring the perpetrators of this genocide to justice. Like, the government and the Irish people think that we have such a special relationship with them. You then show us, you know, try it out. Why can't, like, Micheál Martin should have mentioned Gaza, should have mentioned Iran, should have mentioned so many things when he met Donald Trump last month, and instead he just sycophanted, like, licked up to him, you know, a paedophile. They really are a disgrace to the Irish government, like, they really, really are. But it's not to play for them either, you know, and history is going to judge them very harshly unless they really change their course of what they're doing, you know. And again, it is time for leadership and bravery, and we're not alone. The Spanish government have already gone out very far ahead and put themselves at risk, and still are doing what's right, and other governments around the world as well. And I suppose long-term decenter America, you know, look for alternatives. And I think there is a movement for that happening as well. But what can people do? Get onto the government and then hit the streets as well when the time comes, and be vocal and be loud and be bold, and know that we are on the right side of history, and not the government, and not the laws that are upholding this genocide or preventing people from stopping this genocide, and be emboldened by that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Mikey. And I think that gives people sort of clear instructions as to how to actually get engaged, how to support you guys on your mission to break the illegal siege on Gaza, to bring an end to this genocide that's really just polluted humanity as a whole now for so long. And that, as you say, if it's not put to an end now, it'll be us under Zionist occupation. So thank you to all of you who are being so brave, knowing the risks, and still plowing on, and really just being the voice and soul of humanity outside of Palestine. So we'll be following you and making sure that there's as many eyes on you as possible. And also, Audrey, I'm sure in the description we can include these instructions from Mikey as to how people can get engaged,
Definitely.
templates and that sort of thing as well.
The BDS list as well.
Yes, BDS boycotting is really important.
Very important as well. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And I just want to second that, Mikey, what Dara has said, just to send like my love and strength and support to you all, and just to recognize that far from the performative kind of pejoratives that are thrown at the flotilla, it's a really strong, brave action. And yeah, I think it's important to say that.
Well, thank you guys as well for the work that you do. And that's it, as we said, it's a collective struggle, and we're all doing our part. And that's it. Yeah, hopefully one day Palestine will be free and we put the world to rights, you know.
Yeah. So, Garamila, Akara.
Gormila.
Ramila, my gift, guys. Son live.